I think you would have got a very different God Hates Us All had they not done
or they
Diabolus the way they did it. Been nervous to talk about this or to record this episode because it's gonna be a touchy subject, and I
yep.
know that. And so I guess let's start with this. What we want to talk about today is the Slayer record that nobody really ever wants to talk about,
Yeah.
and that's Diabolus and Musica. That was their often referred to new metal record,
Right.
and even they don't want to talk about it,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is kind of hilarious to me.
It is. It
Like
is.
Carrie talks down about it all the time.
All the time.
He's said it's not my favorite.
Right.
It's the least favorite in their entire catalog, I think he said.
Yeah. Yeah, he said that multiple times. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, but he's like, not to get on that too hard, but like he's I've seen so many interviews where he talks about this and stuff, and it almost comes in a way, he almost speaks in a way or was like he didn't have a say so. Like, oh,
right,
my arm is twisted and we had to do this. And I'm like, well, why did you have to do it?
right,
Like the label wasn't coming to you telling you how to do
right.
it. They clearly did it because they saw that metal shifted and they were kind of getting washed up. No offense to Slayer or whatever, but the mighty Slayer was all of a sudden in the rearview mirror and people were like moving on,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and they're like, wait a minute, but we're one of the big four, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how can this happen to us? And Metallica did the same thing with Saint Anger, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all
Well, it
seen
happens
the
all the
behind
time.
the scenes with the making of Saint Anger and stuff, and they're just like,
Mm-hmm.
Kirk was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to do us, guys. Like, I
Right.
want to do
Yeah.
solos and stuff. Like, this isn't us. And then, and just like
Mm-hmm.
how out of touch, James and um
Lars.
Lars were with that. They're like, oh, let's just sit on the floor with this microphone and scream into it. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, you guys don't understand that, at all. You're like a bunch of dads, like, let's see what the kids are
Yeah.
doing with this thing dangle video game.
Yeah. But I
It,
mean, it's something that bands do. Like, you
yep.
want to, and I mean, Carrie, I think he even said it himself. I got it right here in front of me, actually. Um, they looking back, we were just saying, all right, how do we make Slayer fit into today's society? So they
Yeah.
were actively, it was intentional as much
Sure.
as he doesn't want to admit
Yeah.
it, because who did they go then tour with? System of a Down,
Yeah, exactly. All of the new metal players.
Fear Factory.
Yep.
They were pretty much new metal at that time,
Yep.
because this came out, June of 98.
Right.
So they were absolutely trying to kind of align with that.
Yeah.
And if you listen to some of the songs on this record, yeah, they were doing that. Like Stain of Mind,
Yes.
that's like da da the classic couch
Chugging.
riff, just
Yep.
sped up a little bit.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, and add a couple, flat fives in there, and you got a Slayer song.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, when people kind of refer to it as, oh, it's just the new metal record, or how dare they, or whatever. You know what I mean? This was largely written by Hanneman too.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
So like when people are like, oh, Slayer went to shit after Jeff died. Did you like this record?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's,
Yep.
and I was looking at the Spotify stream numbers for Slayer's catalog. This one's actually more streamed than Divine Intervention.
See, yeah, I'd believe it. Yeah.
So it's not exactly their worst performing
No.
record by any stretch.
No.
And I mean, how many covers have you seen of Stain of Mind
Oh,
by
sure.
newer bands?
Tons.
It's
Yep.
all over YouTube.
Yep.
All over
For
YouTube.
sure.
I think, did Ginger do one? Ginger may have done one. I know Infected Rain did one.
Right.
But they're all good.
Yeah, they are good. Yeah.
And it's like, we still want to,
I'm just gonna say this.
look back
like,
with a negative.
right. But see, here's the thing, and I've said this before on record. I've said, for me again, and I don't want to disparage any Slayer
Right.
themselves or any fans or anything like that. I totally get it. But I've said it a bunch of times. Like, for me personally, I think that this is their best record. Now, that's just because my style,
Cue the hate.
what did you say?
Cue the hate.
Cue the hate. Here we go. Everybody's like, yeah, I hate this. What an idiot, But again, I'm not saying it's like better than their other stuff. I'm saying out of the things that I've heard, I kind of
Hmm.
like this one the better. I think personally it's a little bit more artistic. I think there's different contrast to their songs within this record. It's just more than just blast beats and like
Yeah.
and it's like, but that's the part of this that I think didn't fit was Tom's vocals and stuff. Musically, I think the record's pretty cool. I think it's all
Mm.
right. I just think that, and I'm not talking down to Tom at all as a vocalist and stuff. His vocals just don't fit new metal. And I think that's why it didn't
Right.
work. And that's why when you hear Stain of Mind by Ginger and stuff, who are ostensibly a new metal band, it
Yeah.
works because they had the right vocalist doing the song. And so
Right.
that's like when you go back again to Saint Anger and you see people take Lars shitty ass freaking drum set out of there and put in a good sounding drum set, and they kind of freaking slow some stuff down and put do a couple
Mhm.
tweaks. It's a good record,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm sorry. The thing is that Slayer obviously is Slayer for a reason because they have written music that the masses like. Same thing with
Hmm.
Metallica. So
Right.
obviously they're doing something right. Okay. Now they can
Hmm.
look back at this and be like, I hated that record because we weren't ourselves and this and that and all this
Right.
other stuff.
And
And
I think that's what he's doing.
I think that's what he's getting at. But you still got to hang your hat on it and be like that.
You still got to own it.
Yep.
You put
You
your
own it.
name on it, so
You
you got
wrote
to
it.
own it.
Yep. And
You
that's
know.
just, I think that's the thing that really bothers me the most. And dude, everybody knows Kerry King is, you know, he's Kerry King. He
That he
says
is.
what's
That
on
he
his
is.
mind and he doesn't give a crap.
Right.
But I mean, he's not playing a part, by any means. But
Mhm.
either which
No,
way,
he's not.
again, coming back to the record and stuff, I think it was well written. I just don't think that they had the right players in the mix to do it justice, if that makes sense. And I just see the potential in the record, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, again, not a big Slayer fan. Raining Blood, cool song. There's a lot of, I mean, they have so many
Mhm.
iconic songs that have so many
Right.
iconic things. But I just don't see why this one gets so much hate because
Mhm.
I feel it has way more artistic value than what they've done previously and
Right.
afterwards.
I mean, I think that, you have these different eras of Slayer. You
Yeah.
have like their classic era where you had those classic Slayer albums.
Right.
You had,
Yep.
Rain and Blood, you had, Seasons in the Abyss and those kinds
Yep.
of things in that era. And then you get into the 90s, and you got Divine Intervention,
Yeah.
you got this one, and I forget the other one. I think it was a cover album. Anyway, I don't listen to it clearly,
Sure.
but and then you get into the record that came after this,
Right.
God Hates Us All.
Yeah.
To me, and this is where I'll get the hate.
Sure.
To me, that is peak Slayer.
Yeah.
For me, that is by far their best album. They will never do one better. Hate me for saying it. I don't care, but they had to do this record to get that
To get
one.
there. Yeah. That's a good point,
Because
dude.
I think God Hates Us All was a direct and very visceral response to this one. The
Sure.
feedback they got on this one, what they thought of it, they channeled everything and tried to take it to an extreme, whether that was musically or
Right.
lyrically or visually, because the original
Yeah.
cover of that album got banned.
Yep.
It came out on September 11th, 2001. All of
Yeah.
these things that surrounded, God Hates Us All, like, it's not going to get better. It's just
Right.
not.
I
You know.
agree with you. Like I said, I still think that I like this record the best out of Slayer. God Hates Us All is a great record though for Slayer.
Mhm.
But
It is
you're right,
peak.
but because you're so freaking on point, because the thing is, you could tell that was a record that they said, what is Slayer? Like, what
Mhm.
are we?
Yeah.
Like, what is our sound? What is our whatever? And they figured it out. And that was the thing is, you're right. They had to basically kind of like, in a way, be baptized by going through this,
Yeah.
with Diabolus to all of a sudden be like, okay, ugh.
Yeah.
What did
they
we
had-
do? How do we
Yep.
get it back? And
Mhm.
and they did, and they really lean into their sound with that
Yeah.
record, and it's good. Yep.
I think you would have got a very different God Hates Us All had they not done
Or
Diabolus the way they did it.
Yep.
So
Or even did
you
it at
know,
all. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So for that reason, and that, for that reason, like, I'm a fan of it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yep.
Do I listen to it as often? No.
No. Yep.
But I mean, even if you listen to God Hates Us All and not just Disciple and not just Bloodline, like
Right.
you
Yep.
really start to get into some of those deeper tracks.
Sure.
Here Comes the Pain. There is
Hmm.
definitely some leftover new metal-y kind of stuff going on in
For
there.
sure.
The title,
Yeah.
geez,
Yep.
wonder where they got that from, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so there's still some of that influence. And I think a lot of Slayer fans would agree with me that that record is high up
Mhm.
on the list if you rank them,
Right.
you know, and kind of going through um, some of the um, rabbit holes on like Reddit, kind of
Oh,
going
sure.
down into those comment sections. There's a lot of people that still to this day talk about this record, and it's mostly positive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's mostly positive. People
Nice.
saying,
Good.
yeah,
Good.
Diabolus was great,
Yeah.
and
Well, it
people,
is though. I mean, I
yeah.
don't understand. Again, I just okay. Because here's the thing: when I hear people, I will say it's new metal esque, but there's so many people like, "Oh, that's when Slayer went new metal." Bro, listen to me. If this had turntables and Tom's up there rapping and it was a complete goof, yeah, I could see that. But again, it's still a thrash metal album as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
yeah,
I mean, it has hints
yeah,
of they went different tuning and stuff like that. I get that,
right,
but it's not like I feel like Metallica took more of a right turn than
right,
Slayer did.
100%.
It was so jarring. Everybody, like when Saint Anger came out, everybody went, it was like you just hear the record scratch.
Yeah.
What? you
Dude,
know?
have you seen that kid who was covering songs off Saint Anger and he replaced his snare drum with a beer keg
Nice.
and it sounds like exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Oh God, dude.
And I'm
I don't
like,
know why
man,
Lars did that,
because
man.
like, for people who, I don't know, but like drummers in new metal, especially early new metal, they would use a piccolo snare, which is tuned
Yeah.
higher.
Yeah.
I feel
My
like
favorite
Lars
snare.
was Lars was trying to take that
He
to
went
the
the exact opposite. Yeah.
yeah,
I want
you
my
know,
snare, the bottom of my snare to touch the floor.
yeah, yeah,
It was so
um,
stupid.
yeah. But
Yeah. Well,
but
but again,
yeah, so
he was just in that they were in that mode where they didn't understand new metal. Like Metallica didn't understand new metal, where they're just
mhm,
like, all hats are off. You can do whatever you want now. We don't have to do this stuff. They got turntables, cats and dogs living together. It was just like
mass
pure
hysteria. Yeah,
mass hysteria, and then that's what it's like. I'm gonna make my own snare drum and I'm gonna make it sound like shit.
yeah,
It's just like,
yeah.
dude, back up.
Calm down,
It's
calm down.
not like this era of just like you get to do whatever you want and experiment. It's like, no, there is a method to the methods of mayhem. There is a method to the mayhem with all this, you know, and it made sense. And that's the thing, is like people were brought up on it.
Mm,
I don't think that either one of these bands should have attempted to go into it. However, I give them all kudos for trying to expand and doing
mm,
something else and stuff, and especially Slayer, because again, I feel like Slayer was not necessarily selling out. I feel like they saw some stuff that was happening and they're like, that's actually kind of cool. Let's try to incorporate it. I
mm,
feel like it was more of that than trying to be something else like
right.
Metallica did.
I think you're right. And when there's actually an EPK on YouTube about this record,
Okay.
so an electronic press kit,
Right.
on video interviews and things talking about the record and the recording and all of that, and Jeff, he was very vocal about wanting to essentially do it better than the people
Yeah.
who were doing it.
Interesting.
He's like, well, okay, you guys are doing these kinds of riffs. I bet I could do it better.
Interesting.
And that was kind of his mindset going into it because, as I mentioned, Hanneman wrote the lion's share of
Right.
this record,
Yeah.
and Carrie said something about, him just not liking what was going on in music. And so he wasn't really writing a whole lot
Yeah.
and all this. And it's like, well, get out of the way then,
Yep.
and just let Jeff do it,
Yeah.
you
For
know.
sure.
But I think it's when people kind of look back and they're like, Yeah, it was their new metal record. Who cares? You know, everybody was doing it. And but you have to understand too that when you're a career musician, you
Yeah,
want to kind of align with what's working
sure.
because, that's kind of your job. It's your job to sell records.
Right. But the alignment has to be natural though. You know what I mean? Where
Oh, 100%.
where it's like you get it and you're just like you're evolving with it, if that makes sense. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like I don't know. I'm a race car guy. I'm a car guy. Everything.
Hmm.
It's like you don't want to see some 62-year-old drag car guy, who's like just all he's ever done is drag racing, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm gonna try drifting next weekend with my son's car, and then he's just wham right into the wall. It's like it's not gonna work out. You haven't lived and breathed this, you haven't come up in it. So now, not to say that some 62-year-old guy can't pick it up and do it. It can happen.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that like what you're talking about, it has to be a natural evolution though in order
Hmm.
for it to go on. But there's lots of bands. I mean, like look at Pantera. Pantera originally started off as a freaking glam band,
Hair
and
metal,
then
yeah.
they ended up completely changing metal music altogether. How
Hmm.
cool is that?
Hmm.
But again, that's where they freaking found themselves and went, this is who we are,
Yeah.
and they leaned
Yeah.
into it. And that's like you said with the God Hates Us All record with Slayer. I
Hmm.
agree with you. I mean, there's definitely they have some bigger tracks, way before God Hates Us All, but you're right. That's when they found, I mean, not found, that's when they figured themselves out because I think they needed
Hmm.
to get that freaking taste of what the hell happened there,
Hmm.
and like, we're not going to do that anymore, and then
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
really leaned into it.
Yeah. No,
So,
I agree 100%
yep.
there. So when people kind of are pretty about this
Yeah.
record, it's like, well, as a whole, whatever. But there's some solid songs on there, and like I
Yep.
said, we wouldn't have the next record if we didn't have this one. So, and
Yeah.
it did better than Divine Intervention. So,
True. Yep.
just to remind everybody.
Yep.
But yeah, that's something I wanted to kind of chat through for a long time.
Yeah.
And but again, music is subjective. You know, so some people may like it, some people may not, and that's fine.
Yep.
But I was nervous because Slayer fans are very much Slayer till
Oh
death.
boy.
So, I was like, oh man.
Yeah. They deep in the paint.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and that's the thing. Mad respect to that though.
Mm.
It's
Oh, for sure.
I think it's cool, because you hardly ever, unless if they're like, well, when I was 13, I was really into Slayer, and then like, now I'm into blah blah blah. You see some of that, but most people are like, I've been a Slayer fan my whole life, and nobody's gonna beat them. It's like, good for
Hmm.
you, dude. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean,
Um,
they're known for their hardcore fans, like
big time. Yep.
hardcore fans.
Yep.
Um,
But
so,
that's the cool
but
thing is, but again, their sound hasn't strayed that much. Now imagine Slayer kicking out a Black album. You know what I mean? And then all of a
oh
sudden
yeah,
they're radio hit after
yeah,
radio
oh
hit after
man.
radio hit. It's like, ugh, and that's what Metallica is dealing with,
Mm.
and it's
And
just, you know, they had such a cult following
yeah,
before they made it huge, and then like Injustice for All like sprung them up, to
yeah,
these enormous heights, and then they're like, here we're going into deep outer space with this Black album,
yeah,
but we're going to do it with people who've never heard us before. And it was
right.
like, wait, what? And then load and reload, or as my old
Hmm.
guitarist used to say, shit and reshit.
Yeah,
It just Metallica was just like, we're sleeping on $100 bills every single night, whereas Slayer was just like, we're just going to keep doing us. And
yeah.
that's what I think is cool about them. That's what I think is cool about their fans and stuff, is that they know who they are and they know what they like and
I know what they want.
they know what
But
they
yeah,
want.
my
Yep.
my favorite interview with Dave Lombardo is he's talking about the Black Album and like how pissed off he was when he heard it.
Yeah.
He's like, I took it out and threw it down the stairs. And he just went on this whole deal about how it was garbage. Um, and I'm like, yeah, that's par for the course.
Yep.
You know.
Well, and anything that gets that much attention is gonna come across like a fad or whatever, and
Oh yeah.
and there's definitely it's just like grandma's fudge, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, oh man, you like the first time you have, it, you're like, oh, that's really good. You know, you kind of get the taste of like, oh, really, you know, but like, dude, there's nobody that's like when they heard that album's like, I immediately hate it because it sucks and all this other stuff. I mean, you want to say that, but it's also like you sit back and go, dude, there's a lot of good songs on here. It's just like
Mhm.
Grandma's Fudge, though. It's really simple. It's overly sweet,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and you just can't have too much of it, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
know. Teach their own.
Yeah. It is what it is. But
Yep.
yeah.
Money
So,
does weird things to musicians.
hey, when it's your career,
Yep.
gotta eat.
Gotta eat. That's right. And sometimes you want steak every meal
Hmm.
or grandma's fudge.
Yeah.
But let's just take a second though and recognize that Jeff Hanneman was an amazing guitarist though. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I know we've kind of shit on Slayer here and there and stuff like that, but dude, Jeff was
He
he's
was
the
the guy,
best.
man.
He
He
was
was
the
the guy.
man. Yep.
Yeah.
So
And, I'll be honest, I'm one of those guys who,
yeah,
Slayer is not as good without Jeff.
I agree. I agree. Yep.
No, nothing against Kerry King, but I think the two of
No.
them together was a little bit, however closely they worked or didn't, just it's like, okay, when you're writing with another guitar player, you have them in the back of your mind. So like when you're
Yep.
writing, it's like, okay, are they going to be into this? How are they going to do this and that? Like you're taking that into consideration as you're writing, individually. But with Jeff having passed, like Kerry doesn't
Yeah.
have to do that. So now
Yeah.
Kerry can do whatever he wants.
Good point.
And I Slayer has always just been they don't
Yes.
really deviate
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And, they really haven't, since God Hates Us All,
Yep.
frankly. I mean, it's all just very like it, I guess monotone would be the only real analogy. Like there's no real dynamics. You know what you're getting in a
Yeah.
Slayer record,
Yeah.
and that's the point, and that's intentional. Um, but for me, I tend to like a little bit of dynamics in
Hmm.
music. So I get bored very easily
Right.
with Slayer. God Hates Us All was one of those records where they had some of that, and then they kind of changed as they went into the 2000s and all
Right.
that. But so I don't listen to them that
Yeah.
frequent, and I've played the classics live before. I've covered all that stuff.
Yeah.
Raining Blood, War Ensemble,
Mm.
Dead Skin Mask, all that stuff. Those are classics. You can't,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can say about those.
Nope.
You know what I mean? But once they got into the 90s, like something happened.
Yep. Something happened.
And they didn't quite figure it out until 2001.
Right.
um, you know, but
Yep.
but
Well,
that's me.
given all props and dues and everything, I mean, if you're a band for 30, 40 years,
Hmm.
you're gonna go through it. I
Yeah.
mean, if you think about it, it's like they say that a human a person changes who they are every 7 years.
Hmm.
They don't maybe intentionally do that. It's just naturally an
Reinvent
evolution.
yourself.
You
Yeah.
reinvent yourself every 7 years.
Hmm.
As a band with 4 or 5 plus individuals and stuff like
Yeah.
that, you're all going through your own reinventions, and then to still stay cohesive and put out
Hmm.
something different, but still where the fans who are also reinventing themselves still want to partake in, like that's a crazy mixture, to be able to do and then be able to still kick this thing out, 30, 40 years later. And they've put out a lot of records,
Mm.
it's
That's
impressive.
interesting. That's
Yep.
interesting when you put it that way because, going back to what I said about them kind of being like,
Yeah,
maybe that's what solidified the fan base,
I agree.
because it's like, okay, if they're reinventing themselves every 7 years, it's like, okay, I know what I'm getting with
Yep.
Slayer.
Yep.
I like it. I know that I like it. Doesn't matter what this reinvention is because
Right.
I know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
because
perfect
I
sense.
I think that's the thing with Metallica that again, I hate to keep, you know, like showing the differences and similarities between the two bands, or they're always compared. But
Everybody went through it. Even
right, right.
Megadeth.
But
All
I
the big
think
four went through it.
correct. But I think that's the thing with Metallica is that they didn't stay monotone. They didn't stay on this line, and they
Right.
jumped all over the place.
Right.
Stuff. They
Oh
eventually
yeah.
came back.
Nothing else matters.
Yeah. Yep, nothing else matters
Yeah.
for sure.
But I mean, Megadeth went through their whole kind of thing in the 90s too. What was the record called? Cryptic Writings,
Yeah.
I believe that record was called. It was very hard rocky. It
Yep.
wasn't thrash metal, and that record, tends to, in conversations I've been privy to anyways, is kind of the least favorite,
Yeah.
in the Megadeth crowd. Anthrax too, if we're talking about the big four,
Right.
the whole John Bush era, you know. I will say though, The Sound of White Noise, I love that record still, Only that song's perfect,
Yep.
you know. Um, I like the John Bush era, but it was very much not thrash metal.
Yeah.
So I think they were trying to align more with the grunge thing than the new metal thing. I don't
Sure.
remember when The Sound of White Noise came out, but um, I think it was prior to Korn kind of exploding.
Right.
So I think it was a little bit more trying to align with grunge because you can hear it, especially in a song
Sure.
like Only,
Yep. Yep.
or Black Lodge. I mean, you kind
Yeah.
of get Pearl Jam vibes in some of those
Yeah.
songs,
Totally. Yep.
you know,
Yep.
um, and it was amazing, So
Yeah.
it's like everybody did it.
Yeah.
Everybody did it, and then everybody had that reinvention,
Yeah.
as a band,
Right.
you know.
Well, and then even
Um,
even the new metal bands that have stuck around this many years. I mean, Korn's reinvented themselves.
mm,
Slipknot's reinvented themselves.
mm,
It's really hard to stay that exact same route every single time, especially when you're creating. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because again, not only are you reinventing yourself, you're also living through different experiences every single time that write a new song. You're in a different
Mm,
moment in your life. You're in a different chapter. You got
yeah.
different family members. Maybe somebody died. You're in a different part of the world, whatever. You got more money, you got less money, whatever. You have all these different things and stuff. And then I always come back to this. There's no better time for a person to write an album besides when they're hungry. And I think that's when you get the true artist, on record. And that's the hard part, is to have that visceral hunger, in the first or second album, still when you're writing album number 11, number 12, it's like, it's hard, man. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
pull that back in. And I think it's kind of impossible. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't think of any other band that's written that many albums that all of a sudden comes out with album number 10 or plus or something like that. That's actually better than anything else in their,
Mm,
you
it's
know,
true. I mean,
discography.
I hate to say this out loud, but you know, I don't think Lamb of God's ever going to get back to Ashes of the Wake.
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
they just put out a song. I can't recall what the name of it is, but I think it came out last week, and it's just like, eh,
Yeah,
it doesn't even sound like Lamb of God. It sounds like a bit watered down. You know,
yeah,
don't hate me for saying that, Mark, but it kind of feels like it was a little bit watered down in terms of the riff.
sure.
Very simple, and if that's what they were going for, great.
Yep,
But it's like, you know, we come to want the Ashes of the Way kind of stuff.
yep. Yeah, and it's hard, again, I mean, even looking like I said, so you got Korn, who, like, when they lost Head, they really went,
They went
like,
dubstep. Yeah, they
yeah, they
did that
went
dubstep thing.
dubstep. Yeah, Monkey
Yeah.
was like, I don't know what to do, guys. Please
Mhm.
don't look at
Yeah.
me, and
Do I need to show up to rehearsal today?
right, exactly. And they reel it back in and stuff, but it just got to a point where it was just like,
Hmm.
they're just putting out the same stuff, but just like a lesser, portion of it, or a lesser vision of it. And
Hmm.
but then, like look at Limp Bizkit and stuff, like the Still Sucks record, I think is good. I really like it. I like the
Hmm.
first half of that album. I think is really good. But then talk about reinventing, they went like grunge on part of it,
Hmm.
which I don't really care for. I didn't think it was very good. But there's some people that I know that, like one of my best friends, Brett, those was like some of his favorite Limp Bizkit songs ever,
Hmm.
was the grunge side stuff, because he's a big grunge fan too. So he loves Nirvana and he loves Limp Bizkit. And he's like, dude, I love it. And I'm like, good for you. Okay. Not my ball of wax, but all right, that's cool.
Good for
But
you.
again, everybody's still waiting to, yeah, I mean, when these bands are still around, and tell me I'm wrong, and I will sit down with you like David Draymond, and we'll talk. But no, but I guarantee you everybody in the back of their head is always waiting for that band to put out their first record again. You know, they're
Mhm.
always just hanging on
Yeah,
like, is this going to be the one? This is going to be one. Ah, shit. Well,
right.
it's all right, you know.
But, and then bands get, a hard time for doing something different.
Yep.
I mean, take Linkin Park, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
um,
jeez.
you go from Hybrid Theory to something like, what was the Rick Rubin record? Minutes to Midnight,
Minutes to midnight. Yep.
very different
Dude.
sound, very different vibe,
Like
you know,
311. It's like,
so it's
what?
like, and I mean,
Yeah,
I like it. I'm a fan of the Rick Rubin production style,
sure.
but
Yep.
it's very different,
Yep.
and I think it alienated some fans and got them some new ones, and
Yep.
probably net positive, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. They caught some flack for
Oh,
that,
big
but I
time.
mean that's how you get over those things. I
Yep.
think it's the reinvention and not the realignment, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep.
So you're not trying to align with something that's popular, but you're reinventing yourself a little bit. I think, like the corn dubstep thing, I think that they were trying to align because dubstep was becoming
Oh, it's
incredibly
huge.
popular,
Yeah.
when Kiss went disco,
Yep.
all of those kinds of things. It's like you're just trying to align. You're not, you know,
But that's my
reinventing.
whole.
And I think
Yep, you're
that's the,
exactly right, and that was my whole
yeah.
point. Is like they've
Hmm.
all gone through
I think
it.
you're
You
right.
know, we could sit here as new metal guys sitting there saying like, "Oh, well, new metal never. These new metal bands that never try to like." No, they did. I mean, again, Korn's a huge player in that. You know, they went disco. You know, with the dubstep. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
and I mean, talk about. I mean, dude, dubstep was like boosh on
It was
fire, and then all of
crushing
a sudden it was
at
like,
that
this
point.
is stupid, and then immediately went away. But
Yeah.
um I don't know, man. It's interesting how, but like I said, when you're still putting out stuff 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you're getting to a point where it's like you're squeezing the blood out of the turnip, and it's almost all out. So you're doing
Yeah.
whatever you can, trying to still make millions.
Yep. Yeah. Still
Yep.
trying to live the dream,
Yep.
but
Still trying to live the dream.
yeah. But so I mean, I'm definitely glad Slayer reinvented
Yeah.
on got it's all but they needed to do Diabolus before they could get there.
That's
So
such a cool way of putting it. Yeah. You're
yeah,
exactly right, though. Yep.
yeah,
Nailed it. Look at
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
You're all
I've thought a lot
prophetic.
about it. I've thought
Look
a lot
at you.
about this.
Yeah.
Playing,
I've pondered this for 12 years.
yeah,
Yep.
and playing in a band that's been around for 25 years.
Yep.
It's like we've gone through the same thing.
Hmm.
I mean, we're putting out music that does not sound like things that we've done
Yep.
in the past, and we've had Jesse on the show, and he said, when people are tuning down, I'm tuning up,
Yeah.
and so are we doing things that aren't really necessarily popular in the grand scheme right now? Definitely.
Hmm.
And I mean, it seems to sort of be working
Sure.
ish.
Yep.
Looking at some numbers and things, it's the new videos being pretty well received. Not to make
Dude.
this about me, but
No.
same kind of thing. Like it was kind of a little bit of a reinvention. You know,
Yeah.
that song that we just put out, that was the first song, if memory serves, that the band ever had a bass solo in.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we're trying new things, and we're trying to, I guess not to keep using the term reinvent, but really kind of look at it from an artistic
Sure.
standpoint instead of like, okay, we got to be brutal,
Yeah.
got to be brutal and tight, and it's got to be like at 220 BPM,
Sure.
and it's like we've done that before,
Right. Yep.
you know, um, but that's the struggle though.
Yeah.
It's like, like we were talking about with Slayer, like, they remain constant with everything, and that basically solidified their fan base.
Right. Yeah.
Where you try new things, you're kind of taking a bit of a gamble. Are people going to like it? Do you care if nobody likes it?
Yeah.
And I think the artist in people is like, I don't care. I'm doing this for me.
Yep.
And I think if I've learned anything from essentially studying Rick Rubin and and his production style, like that's the only way to be,
Sure. Yeah.
is like you do that for you.
Yeah.
If you're doing it for money, you're doing it wrong.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
especially when you have, but I still think that there's people who have that, I want that, kind of vision. And then once they get it, then they kind of have this turn of like FU money. You know what I mean?
Well,
Just like what you're talking about, you know, it's
yeah.
like, well, I'm going to do
Yeah.
whatever the hell I want because I am this person, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that again, sometimes we're like you're right, Rick Rubin, dude, works, you know. And
Mhm.
but there's some people that are like, I'm just gonna go pure reggae now. What are you gonna do about it? It's like, not a good
Yeah.
idea.
I mean, if like a lot of these bands, like they all make a stop at Rick Rubin.
Yeah,
They do their Rubin record.
right.
You know, Slipknot did it with Volume 3,
Yep,
which was immensely more successful, if memory serves,
yep,
than its two predecessors, at least at the time.
sure.
Like I mentioned, Linkin Park did it. The Chili Peppers did it, taking it back, that far. And that was their most successful record, I think. Blood
Oh
Sugar
yeah,
Sex Magic.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I
With
mean,
yeah, I think it is, dude, with Under the
I,
Bridge and everything.
yeah, I think it might be Give It
Yeah.
Away and Under the Bridge and
Yep.
Breaking the Girl. Um,
Dude, that record.
but a lot of those bigger bands, they have the Rubin record. And ironically enough, Rubin did all the Slayers.
Yeah.
I think until maybe recently. I don't know if he was part of Repentless or not, um, but these two records that we're talking about today, Diabolus and God Hates Us All, Rubin was involved.
And
So
dude, Californication is their biggest record. I was
really,
thinking that, yeah, 15 to 16 million copies is what it's saying, somewhere around there.
U.S.
Oh,
or global,
worldwide.
worldwide.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. What
Yeah.
did
Well, I mean,
Blood
Scar
Sugar?
Tissue, and I mean, they had some big hits on that one. That was just like,
That's
you know,
true. I just
but
didn't like it.
I agree. Again, that's their Black album. I'm telling you, dude.
That's their Black album.
Here
Yeah,
we
there you go. There
are.
you go.
Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I
Here we are talking about
got
Red Hot
Red Hot
Chili
Chili
Peppers.
Peppers on this show. But
Yeah.
I think it goes to show you, people um or artists rather,
Yep.
it's when you think about it, the reinvention versus the realignment,
Right.
something to think about.
Something to
So,
think about. Yep.
but I mean, here's another question, not to get all, philosophical about it, but I mean, do you need to go through the realignment to get to the reinvention? Is that a byproduct of the realignment
I
from an
think
artist
so. I mean,
perspective?
I think,
You know?
well, again, I just kind of saying what we are saying. I think that there's something to that. I think if you're, I don't want to say one hit wonder, but if you're a one album, band,
Mm,
and that's all you're known for, and you guys broke up and all this other stuff, that's all you're ever going to get. But if you're a band that's putting out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus albums or something like that, you
hmm
do have to go through that, you know,
hmm
to reinvent yourself,
Right.
and yeah,
I
I
mean,
just think it's a part
even
of it.
yeah, I do too. Now that we're kind of fleshing it out a little bit, and I think it works at whatever level you're on. I mean, if you're,
Mhm.
I hate to say this phrase because it describes me perfectly, like a career local band guy,
Yeah,
an artist. You kind of, I think that's part of the deal. I think it has to be.
yeah,
And I think so many artists, and me included, like you don't think about it in that way, and really analyze it because you're stuck in this artist mentality,
yeah,
you know, um, and everybody wants to ascend to the next level.
sure.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
And, serious musicians, and artists, everybody wants to do
Well,
that.
yeah, because
But,
you're not doing art just to sit in your own studio. You know what I mean? Like
when
art,
you're a performing artist, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
But
hmm
again, it's all intended for somebody else to see it or hear it or experience it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking
yeah.
about? Because it's like even if you're like a painter or something like that, I mean, I'm sure there's some people just like they're doing it because they just want to create and everything, and they'll put it on their
Mhm.
wall and they'll never see the light of day or something like that,
Sure.
But I
Sure.
do think deep down inside that people are doing that to express themselves and stuff, and they're
hmm
not doing it to gain, opinions of others or anything like that, or anything like that. I just think that, especially when it comes to music, most people are writing music because they're not sitting there like, okay, I want this to be the biggest song ever or anything like that. It's
hmm
just like you write it and you think to yourself, that's really good. And you think, I want to share this. And then you
Mhm.
start really tweaking it and really tweaking it. And all of a sudden you go, this might
Right.
have the potential to be shared a lot. And that would
Right.
be really cool if I got some recognition for it and maybe some
Yeah.
dollars and maybe some, and then it starts to kind of go from there,
Sure.
Um,
I don't disagree with that. I think I'm coming at it from maybe a similar parallel.
yeah,
Um, I think it's about connection.
sure.
Whether you're a musician or a visual artist or whatever, you want your work to resonate with other people. From, just
Right.
kind of
That's a good way of
a
putting it.
human kind of,
Yep.
perspective. The other stuff, being byproducts, good byproducts for sure, money, fame, recognition, all of that stuff,
Right.
nice to have, um, but, I think it really boils down to it's like, okay, you know, does this work resonate with you somehow? Yes, it made me feel like this. And I'm like, okay, that was the intent. It was
Right.
to make you feel something. And I'm glad that my feelings could connect with your feelings and you could feel a certain way, hopefully in a positive way,
Right. Yep. Yep.
but I think that that's really kind of the true point. And we really are getting deep with
It's
this.
like
Like,
people are just like falling asleep.
it's like, oh man, is everybody still with us? Did,
That's
did
right.
we lose you? Did we lose you?
That's
You
so
know,
funny. Yeah. Yeah.
but no, I think we've made the point on Slayer.
Yep.
I think we've kind of drilled it in. But I mean, if you are still listening,
That's right.
if you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment. Let us know what you think, about all of this.
Yeah.
What do you think about Diabolus? What do you think about God It's Us All? What do you think
Yeah.
about
And
all
then
of
like
the other stuff that we said?
and like give a conversation with it, but not just like, oh, it
Mhm.
sucks. It's like,
Yeah.
cool.
Why?
Okay.
Why did it suck for you?
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to hear it. I want to
Hmm.
I want to have a conversation. I don't want to debate.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm going to keep dropping that David Draymond line. Let's talk. Let's not
David
debate.
Draymond just looms over
That's
every
right.
episode, doesn't he?
That's right. I'm such a huge fan. I got his haircut, It's just
Oh,
I had
jeez. No.
to
Well, yeah.
good stuff.
Uh,
Anyways, hey,
oh, man. Okay. Well,
at
on
that.
that note, thanks for hanging in there with us. If
That's
you're
right.
still there, we appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment,
All
thumbs
the
up.
things. That's
Cool.
right. As always, thanks for listening. Until next time.
See you.